So we're not taking away your cardio, but we're being very specific in it and doing it in a way that supports your goals. Cardio is not the enemy. It's about balance and figuring out where it fits into whatever it is that you want to do. Again, if all else fails, just get your ass out and walk. Have you been a cardio queen in your past life, but now you're taking on the muscle mommy movement and wondering how to add in cardio properly? If so, welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about how to cardio properly. So if you're ready, listen up and lean in as we elevate your mind. For those of you listening, if you do not want to listen to our banter where we talk about our lives, puppies, babies, and television, please skip to the episode on cardio, checking out the show notes to decide where that or find out where that happens.
Okay. So I need to place in an order for LMNT in my household. And I said, Michael, since because he's now drinking LMNT, I said, what flavors would you like? He said, is there a grape?
Oh.
And I said, ugh. And I said, who likes grape flavor?
Was he a big fan of grape flavored vodka at one point?
Oh, maybe.
That was something I used to drink back in the day. With Red Bull.
That's what I'm like, grape, like it makes me think of like grape cough medicine, where I was more of the cherry.
Yeah. The grape Flintstones.
Oh, yeah. The chewable things.
Yeah.
Would you have a grape LMNT?
No, I usually just do the lime.
The lime. Ever since I was pregnancy, I can't do the lime. I like the watermelon, the raspberry. I like the plain one, the orange. I think I like grapefruit, but I don't like grapefruit in general.
I like certain grapefruits, but grape, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I was like, ooh. Yeah. I was like, ooh.
Yeah. So
I was curious.
So I am in a mini cut.
Oh,
for 3 weeks.
What?
Yeah.
Just cause?
I'm doing mini cuts, mini bulks.
Okay.
So I decided, number one, just do a quick, because I'm going to Nashville. So
when?
April 10th, and doing a mini cut. So I cut myself to 1,800.
That's a nice cut.
I know. That's because I got my calories up to about 2350. Yeah. And then I'll come back. The nice thing is we're doing a trip in July. So I have all this time to play around. So doing a mini cut. And I tried a meal today, which I haven't figured out, where I saw a girl that I follow do this. She used to be vegetarian. She's really big onto anti-inflammatory foods and things that we talk about here. And she does a scooped out bagel where she makes a boat and puts eggs in it and then cooks the eggs in the bagel. And then she does sprouts, avocado, and tomato. But I added turkey sausage, spinach.
Is that where you were eating avocado. When I got here?
But it was not. I don't know what I need to do.
It
wasn't great. It was kind of soggy.
Ooh.
So that was fun.
I know. I can't wait to go on a cut. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to wait, but I can't wait. To eat 2,900 calories a day is so hard.
I'm sure.
It sucks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sad because I really enjoyed being at maintenance. I did gain some weight. So my lowest point this year thus far was around 149 to 151. And now I'm chilling at 153, 155. But my inches have actually gone down. But I can definitely see. Thank you. But I can definitely see that I'm not as cut.
Yeah.
So I'm cutting.
Well, hang on. This is for the audience listening. This is we like to look a little bit sharper, I would say. Yeah. Where not everybody has that goal, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But we like to play around and we like to look sharp.
Sharp is a good word. So the other thing is what I was realizing that I didn't do last time I was actually trying to cut is really be at maintenance and making sure that I'm hitting my protein targets while in maintenance. I was just kind of eating, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see how this works.
Me too. Are you taking pictures?
Of course. Good. Pictures and measurements. And then I'll do another DEXA here. And probably I'm trying to get in this week if I can. So then I can have one now and then one closer to when we go on our trip. So the other thing I'm doing, which I've already talked about, is, saving any sort of alcohol for special events. But even then, I'm reading this book. It's Alan Carr's book, and he wrote a book on how to quit smoking, how to quit drinking, how to quit doing this. And it's such an interesting book because the entire book is you've been brainwashed to think that you're getting something out of this thing. And the thing that cures what you think cures the thing that you're trying to get rid of is doing more of that thing. So like when you're having cravings for alcohol, it's because alcohol is leaving your system. So then people will go and like have the hair of the dog. Now, I don't do that anymore. I've definitely been like, no.
That's actually worse for you too, to do.
Right. Well, and I'm just like, one day, I already know that I don't want to feel this way. But it was just so interesting. It's like if you were a non-drinker and you actually drink your first sip of alcohol, you don't think it's pleasurable. It says you're not acquiring a taste. You're actually losing the taste, because if you just drink beer and think it tastes good, you're actually just adapting to the poor taste. And I was like, oh, that's interesting too. So it's
is he the same one that was like you smoke the cigarette while you're reading the book?
I don't know.
There's somebody that's like a quit like smoking now, and you're supposed to like when you read the book smoke your cigarette.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it was it's an interesting book. I'm like 85 pages in. I just started it yesterday.
Oh, you're quite the reader now.
I know. And it says like, you know, you have this idea again that this thing is actually bringing you relief. And I think about our clients who binge eat, and there's this idea that it's actually bringing them relief, and that without it, like they're not going to survive, when that's just brainwashing that you've done for yourself.
We'll go back to alcohol. The clients that have the glasses of wine every night, it's my way to unwind. It's my way to relieve myself. And I'm like, there's something there.
He goes, the common misconceptions or the common reasons why is that I'm bored, or I can't handle this situation right now, or it helps me unwind. And it's like, that's not true. And that's why people feel like they need willpower to quit things, when they just need to change their mindset around what that thing is actually providing them.
Well, I'll tell you the thing that changed my mind with alcohol was honestly doing Sober October. And because I did it the first time I did it, I was like, okay, like we'll just do it. And then it like I still went out and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is different. This is a different experience. Like not being like annihilated or going in with the purpose of like getting drunk or like getting the drinks or seeing who I can flirt with or anything like that. It was really interesting and eye-opening. And so once I did that, and then I would go back to like drinking, but not as much. And then so October would come again. I'd do it again. Then I'd return drinking, but not as much. So every year it's tapered down quite a bit. And now I'm like, even when I do drink, like when Michael's family was here, I did have some mimosas. And it like took me like 2 of them. And I was like, whoa, like that is wild. Whereas before it was like, give me the bottle. Like, let's go.
Well, and that's what he says too, is like, there's this idea that it's this glorified thing. And you don't see celebrities putting money into like people stop drinking.
No, you know, it's all about like the tequilas and the whiskeys right now.
And if you actually think about the words you describe, like as being drunk is like you said, I remember what you blasted. I think you said.
Annihilated.
Thank you. Hammered. Right. Tipsy.
Yeah.
Like that's what people are trying to like. That's ultimately where they're trying to get.
Yeah.
It's like, think of those words, like hammered.
Yeah. Well, and even I
wasted.
It's always like the next day. Whereas me, I'm like, I don't want to feel like ass the next day. And especially now having a baby, I'm like, I cannot afford to feel like butt.
Right.
Like I already feel like butt if I sleep like crap. But I really don't want to exacerbate that by having alcohol.
Yeah. And for me, it's been, I think this idea of like sobriety, actually, I brought that up to my friends this weekend and they were like, we're not doing that. And I'm like, that's fine for you. What would talk me out of it was that I wasn't going to be fun, or like people wouldn't want to hang out with me. And I'm like, I'm fun. I don't need, like, actually, I'm probably less fun if I have alcohol in me.
It made me like a big... I became very insecure after I stopped drinking. And I still drink, but like after I stopped, I would say consistently drinking because it changes relationships. It changes the way people treat you and talk to you. And it's not like, it's just hard because they're like, oh, there's always like and you're like, well, they go, oh, and then they feel judged too. So it's really odd, or like they don't invite you out as much because, oh, we're going to drink. So we just figured you wouldn't want to come. And it's like, I mean, I could still come.
Right.
But
well, and he talks about that part too. It's just, people will
isolate you.
They're in that kind of, I need willpower. I've tried it before. I failed. Oh, look at this person. They're doing it. And they're not white knuckling their way through. They're just doing just fine. And my relationship with alcohol, as I've talked about on here, has changed drastically over time, but I can still see its control.
Like tentacles.
Right. Because there's this idea on like Saturdays that like if we want to go ride bikes somewhere, we get drinks and food. Right. And it's like, well, we could just get food, and non-alcoholic beers to me are awesome.
Are you still drinking the Athletics?
I haven't. The ones I got are not very good, but like this weekend I had Michelob Ultra now makes a non-alcoholic option. It's 29 calories.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I grabbed one of those and it was perfectly fine. And I'm like, I could do this. Like, I don't need.
That's like when I do the club soda lime. I'm like, oh, this tastes literally like the tequila club soda lime.
Right. So I haven't finished the book yet, but he does talk about like kind of weaning yourself off because, like here's my thing. Honestly, if I just had this kind of rule, if you will, or like structure, like when we go on this vacation, we're probably going to have drinks.
Oh yeah.
But I'd rather be just with like my people in like another country where I don't know anyone. Not that I'm going to act like a fool, but I don't know. It just feels better to me. My therapist said that. She
goes, to be drunk somewhere where you're anonymous, essentially?
Yeah. Okay. And maybe not even drunk because at that point I'll have been so far removed from it. It just gives me a little bit more. I don't want to, I wouldn't hate to run into a client and be even tipsy, because you're not firing on all cylinders. And I want to, always work from integrity and be the person that I want my client, emulate that person who has control and moderation in their life. And so even that kind of pull on Saturdays tells me this thing has much more control over me than I want it to.
Yeah.
Because it just is associated with
fun.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm fun without this. Damn it.
I would agree.
So that's Alan Carr's How to Quit Drinking Without Willpower.
What made you decide to read that book? Just because of this? I want to change my relationship.
Yeah. I've been contemplating this for a while. Our friend Nikki, there's going to be two Nikki's in this explanation. Our friend Nikki stopped drinking in January. And I don't remember why, but now she's 75 days in and she's just like, well,
you might as well keep going.
Right? Yeah. And she comes out and she has fun and she goes to dinners and blah. She's young too. Like she's in her late 20s. And then I was watching something on Nikki Glaser, who's comedian. She was saying
she quit alcohol too.
Yeah. And she read this book.
Oh,
that's why I got the book. And I ordered it right then when I saw it online. She goes, I was just getting these opportunities and I would wake up. Now, I'll finish what she said. I'd wake up hungover and like try to go be my best self. And that's not, now I don't do that. Like I'm very much, if I have something, like if I'm speaking at an event on a Saturday or whatever, like I'm not going to go out the night before. And I very much, like from where I was to where I've been, it's been miraculous. But I don't know. It kind of is at that point, like, what is this giving me? Like I keep thinking it's giving me something. It's not, because I've grown such a tolerance to it that I have to have like X amount of drinks to actually even feel the effects of it. But by that time, it's like, that's
500 calories later. If that.
Yeah. And like we talked about, I'd rather just feel the feeling of euphoria or whatever I'm looking for and not have the calories.
Correct. I agree.
So that's something I'm working on. What else?
I can't work on anything. I'm working on surviving.
Yeah.
That's all. But we're doing okay. There's nothing really happening. She's just really chatty right now. Back to work. That's been fine. It's kind of nice because I come here Mondays, which is good. Tuesdays I go to the office. Wednesdays I have off. And Tuesdays I'm always like, oh, like I wish I was more home and stuff. And then Wednesdays, by the end of Wednesday, I'm like, yeah, nope. I like what I've got going on right now.
Who watches her when you work?
It's a variety. So like today and Friday is Brooke, but Brooke was gone because she's got kids on. So her schedule correlates with her kids' schedule for spring break and breaks and stuff. And then my parents Tuesday, Thursday, if everything's good. But now they're sick, so I'm like, okay. And
I didn't realize your dad had a restaurant in La Jolla.
In Carlsbad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he used Amadeo's Italian Cafe.
Yeah. Was it like popping?
It was. Interesting story. He essentially like had like a mental breakdown back and that's I understand. So I remember that time. It was really odd because I was younger. I had to be like 8 or 9. So we had the restaurant there and he had like a mental breakdown or something, but they think it was an allergic reaction to steroids now, like looking back. And they ended up selling the restaurant. And then that's when we moved out here.
Wow.
Yeah.
What does he do now?
Retired.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Did he do anything when you moved out here?
Yeah, he always worked in restaurants.
Oh,
like
nice.
That's his career is a restaurant person. So manager.
Is he a chef?
No, manager, bartender, server.
But he also likes to cook.
Yes. Well, he's a cook, but not a cook
He didn't go to culinary school.
No.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Anyway.
So today our topic is like how to properly cardio because we've seen that
I want to incorporate cardio for my heart health.
Right. Well, that's
like the
good.
Calorie burn.
But we've seen on, a variety of different in research and different podcasts how they've kind of like shit on cardio. And yes, strength training, especially for women, is the way to go. That's how you're going to create a body with shape. I always compare it to marathon runner versus sprinter. Body is very different where the sprinter has curves that have strong arms and shoulders and all the things. I will say on that Temptation Island, all the girls were fit.
Really?
Fit. One of the girls, I was like, damn, like she looked good. 2 of them. I mean, just like.
What about the boys?
Beautiful. They were, bros. But the girls, I was like, okay, Caps, like, let's go.
Did the girls get fit for the show, though? Or were they,
okay?
Like, you know what I mean?
I don't think, no. You know how hard it is to look that fit.
Yeah.
And, I mean, where you're saying a hamstring and a quad and, like, your delts and your triceps and you're not even doing anything. Like,
okay.
I was like, okay, ladies.
Okay.
And Mark even said, these girls are fit. Like, they're.
Like who? Give me a name.
I don't know their names.
Okay. I'll look it up.
I'll show you later.
You're introducing cardio.
However, there's this idea that like cardio is bad for you. Now, yes, cardio can cause a bit of like put you in a catabolic state where we're not building, we're burning. And so we need to figure out kind of the sweet spot in doing that. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And oftentimes a lot of my clients like really enjoy cardio. I know for me and just like seeing my dad and his oxygen, like wanting to ensure that my lungs are healthy is very, very important to me. Sometimes though, like if they have an upcoming event, they want to add in a little bit more calorie burn and they think that's the way to go. Or I do have some clients who've done like the Spartan races. I have a client who plays squash, as I talk about, and it's important like for their craft to make sure that they can last through a squash tournament. So we're going to focus on that. So some of the common struggles that we see are these kind of questions of number one is, where do we put in cardio versus strength training?
Yeah.
And so do I lift before? Do I lift after? The answer to this question is going to be, what is your goal? So if I am training for a marathon, I'm going to probably do the
more cardio
bulk of my training first, right? Because in marathon training, the goal is not to get stronger. And a lot of people really try to do both, and it's almost impossible. Plus, you're exerting so much energy in that marathon training and then trying to lift afterwards. You are going to set yourself up for injury, right? You're going to, again, you're going from a catabolic state. You're giving the body 2 different messages. And the body's like, what do you want me to do here? Do you want me to conserve energy so that you can run longer? Or do you want me to burn energy and build this muscle? So that's one that I see that people struggle with. And so if you're thinking and you're asking, like, when should I add in cardio? It all depends on your goal. So like for me, I walk 5 minutes to warm up, then I do my lifts. And then on days I lift, I walk afterwards, walk Liberty. And then I do interval training on my like days off. And that's all I usually do that day. Or I'll go on the walk that's all like incline.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about 30 minutes of like incline flat. So like interval walking. And then the other 30 minutes is walking downhill.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to fatigue my muscle because that's really the focus is like sculpting and building a lean body. So cardio is in there just as a way, because for women and women over 40, we lack, I think it's my nephew and I were talking about this, like after the age of 30, like
everything starts to go down.
Well, and even just your opportunities to run.
Oh, yeah.
Are not there anymore.
No.
I mean, you can run after your kiddos.
Ugh.
But yeah. So other common struggles is like how much is too much, and then will cardio kill our process? So our goal is to help you listeners find balance with these goals.
So let's talk about, you need both, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, I always think of like the bodybuilder that like can't even walk because they're so fatigued, you know, because they have so much mass on them, but they like that look. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I can't. And it's not to say like you have to choose both, but again, like Christina was saying, we have to choose what is our goal. Like if we want to run a marathon, I'll see a lot of people when they get back into exercise, they sign up for the marathon.
Why do you do that?
I don't know. That sounds like torture.
Yeah.
Like, just go for the walk. Like that sounds so much easier and less pressure.
It's that like I need this thing to focus
motivate
on
me,
rather than just being like, okay, I'm going to run intervals twice a week.
Yes.
Once a week.
Well, and both have a place, right? And like, for example, you can switch between the two, right? Like you can focus more on strength, you can focus more on the cardio part. But you need to, essentially, there's a way to build the cardio part that incorporates the strength training so you don't lose the muscle mass. And as we know, strength training builds muscle, improves metabolism, supports longevity, supports bone, joint, muscle health. Cardio, heart health, endurance, recovery, sometimes conditioning if we want to too. So like more performance-based things. Now, it doesn't have to interfere, but we want to choose the right type of cardio. So for example, like Christina's talking about, she has flexible options for cardio, right? Her goal is the strength training, but she does the HIIT just to kind of give a different stimulus, keep up the cardio conditioning. Yep. Whereas say my cardio right now is just walking. And that is, I think a lot of people don't understand that though, that walking is enough for like cardio. They think like you need to do a Peloton or something like more cardio boosted, essentially.
Like higher heart rate.
Yeah. But like walking is enough.
I was watching something that Jordan Syatt posted yesterday, and he's like,
he's been on fire with this post.
He's hilarious. How to improve your metabolism. It's like eat protein, strength train, and walk.
Yeah.
Because ultimately what we want to do is make sure that you're mobile and you're moving. And that is enough, right? The more you move, and movement is walking, right? Movement is doing the dishes. The more that you move, the more that your body is burning calories, right? And then it's going to adapt to that. So, it is something that, again, you will find the sweet spot. And we have to remember that for cardio, the benefits, as you mentioned, the heart health, the endurance. For me, I have this thing. I want my heart rate to always be under 53.
Really?
Resting heart rate.
I don't know what my resting heart rate is.
And I'll tell you something. Today I was training, and I'll just walk you through my training. I did my 5-minute walk. I did my warm up. I did 6 sets of back squat. I did 10 for warm up, 5 for warm up, and then 4 threes, 3 reps. So
what do you want your resting heart rate to? You like it what?
I like my resting heart rate between 49 and 53.
Oh, okay.
Which is technically not tachycardia.
How funny.
The other cardia.
It's funny as I'm looking at mine, and it's dropped significantly since I became not pregnant.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So when I was training today, so I did the 6 sets of back squat. I did 3 sets of Bradford press. Then I went into a superset, B stance dumbbell deadlift into cable single arm or delt raise, Then I went into single leg elevated hip thrust, just body weight, and close grip dumbbell chest press. Mm-hmm. My calories on my watch were about 100 calories burned because my heart rate's so low. And I was just like, this is funny because people think like, oh, well, you must not be getting it. I'm already sore from that workout. I just have a really healthy heart. Mm-hmm. And that's really important to me, especially as you've watched someone not be able to breathe. So choosing the right type of cardio is incredibly important for your goals. So when we want to have strength and muscle gain, cardio is going to be kind of our off day or like less important.
I use it like recovery.
Yeah.
More recovery function.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's 3 different types of cardios. You have LISS, MISS, and HIIT. So low intensity steady state, medium intensity steady state, and high intensity interval training. And so when we're wanting to add cardio in, but our goal is muscle gain and creating shape, we want to stick to around that low intensity steady state, walking, cycling. We're not getting our heart rate above like 120. Your heart rate's going to depend on you specifically, but we're not getting our heart rate, into the 120 over range, I would say.
Yeah. Well, let's take this into like a trail, right? So there's like flat trails and then incline trails. So on your for strength training in conjunction with cardio, we're going to do more of a flat trail as opposed to like an incline steep trail. I'm thinking of like Piestewa versus like just Phoenix Preserves and walking around.
Right. No, I think that's a good example. You can also add in like very short duration HIIT, and we're only doing that 1 to 2 times a week. So if we're looking at low intensity steady state, we can do a bit more of that because it's not causing as much stress on our body. It's not keeping us into that catabolic state. We actually can, stay in the anabolic state and recover from our workouts. Recovery. So if you think about recovery, that's a part of the energy that you get from like your food, right? And rest. So if we're tapping in too much into that energy to do the workout, then we're not allowing the body to recover and adapt and ultimately create stronger muscles. So for low intensity steady state, we're not tapping into that bucket very much. So we can do more of it. If we're going to add in higher intensity steady state or a high intensity interval training, we're going to do less of it, shorter bouts of it, because again, we don't want to take too much from that recovery bucket.
Well, shorter bouts meaning like maybe 20 minutes tops.
I would say 10 to 15.
10 to 15 minutes tops.
That's just what I've heard. Like I follow Stacy Sims and she says 10 to 15 minutes, 1 to 2 times a week. And it doesn't have to be like mine, which is just running intervals. She'll talk about plyometrics, right? She'll talk about sled pushing and things like that. So if you're looking to build strength and gain muscle, low intensity steady state or very short bouts of HIIT.
Now, if we're doing fat loss, overall conditioning, I would say more so overall conditioning because we don't want to use cardio for a fat loss tool. That's going to go into your MISS, so your moderate intensity state. So jogging, rowing, stair climbing, that's going to be, so think of like now I'm kind of going up a steep hill. So I would equate it to your hill that you're talking about that you take liberty on when it's your off day. So going in that sense. Now, again, be careful if you're using this for fat loss because now your body's relying on that stimulus for the calories, meaning you're going to be essentially burning more calories according to your watch in your body, but I can't eat back those calories.
Right.
Whereas contrary, and this is where people get hung up with strength training, they want to focus on burning the calories. Well, strength training doesn't burn a bunch of calories according to their watch.
Right.
Okay, so now I can't eat as much when actually you should probably be eating more when you're strength training. So, and it's interesting because the new client I have, she was talking about like how she still wants to incorporate cardio. And I said, that's fine, but like, tell me why so I can understand. She goes, well, the calorie burn. I'm like, okay, we've got to talk about that then because that's not it. And honestly, it depends on like what your goals are conditioning wise. So maybe like, for example, in the spring and kind of the winter time here, a lot more people switch their training to hiking.
Right.
So that's where we may say, okay, this is an appropriate change here where we back off a bit on the strength training, incorporate more of the cardio conditioning sessions. And that can even mean that the strength training looks a bit different. So instead of like maybe doing like a 5x5 squat, we're doing the sled pushes or the ball slams or something a little bit more I want to say CrossFit-y, you know, a little bit more like circuit training, understanding though that there's a trade-off.
Yeah. You know, when you're talking about fat loss too, right? And this idea that, you know, I want to keep that burn up. I want to say like, yes, cardio does burn more calories.
Yeah.
The problem that you guys are missing is that we have feedback loops for that in our bodies. So if we're looking at fat loss, we're probably in a deficit, right? Then we do this cardio that has sucked a bunch of energy out of us. We're already not getting enough energy from our food because we're in a calorie deficit. And so there's a feedback loop that happens. And that's what I call like that catabolic state of it, not even catabolic state. We'll take that off the table. Your body just simply is reserving energy.
It's storage.
Right. It's storing that energy because it's not getting it from food. And now you just sucked a bunch of energy out in that cardio workout or, you know, if you're doing like F45 or Orange Theory. So the body says, okay, well, I've got to keep this brain and this heart alive. So I'm actually going to adapt. And this is what I talk about. It turns off certain engines in your body. So this kind of adaptation happens, and it's supposed to happen because the job of the body is to keep us alive. It's brilliant. We don't even know anything about the body. Like we know like 8% of what it can do, the brain specifically. So yes, you are right. It burns more calories up front.
Yeah, there we go.
Yes, up front. But then we're taking away from that bucket that helps us to actually see the changes we want to see, right? Now throw into that the catabolic state. So now we've lost weight, but we did it through cardio. So now we've actually lost mass.
Yeah.
Both lean mass and fat mass. And so we might be a smaller version on the scale, but we're also just a skinnier version, saggier version of ourselves. So moderate intensity, steady state, kind of what they call like zone 2 is where we want to be. So real quick, how to calculate zone 2 cardio, you're going to take 180 minus your age. Okay, so that's the estimated zone 2 upper limit, beats per minute. Then subtract 10 beats per minute to get the lower minute. So for example, if you're 40 years old, your zone 2 cardio will be between 130 and 140 beats per minute. Now, I'm 42. That is not my zone 2 cardio because, again, like my resting heart rate's so low. So, or it could be my zone 2 cardio, but it's going to actually take me a little bit more to get into that place. So you'll find like when I just try, like I said, I just try to get to 120 because 120 for me is high. It's high. So then you're just doing a cardio that's between 130 and 140, or like me, 120 to 130. And again, that's just more of an incline. I'm still able to have a conversation, but when I'm talking, you might hear that I'm doing something a bit more active instead of like what I sound like right now.
So then now going into, if your goal is this endurance running, so thinking of like long distance cycling, the long distance hiking,
maybe you're doing like your
marathon, your Spartan obstacle course things that they do. That's when we're going to prioritize the endurance training, so the cardio. Now, this is cool because what I like to do is take clients through like different types of cardio, meaning we focus more on time. Then we focus on intervals. Then we focus on distance. And that's going to depend on what your goals are too. So like, for example, if you're going to run a marathon, timing is important. And then you need to be able to run that distance. But you're not going to be running, what is a marathon's like 26.2 miles or something? Okay. You're not going to run 26.2 miles every week. To try and get that.
Right.
You're going to like, but people they'll try and like do like, okay, I got to do like 1 mile and then I'm going to build up to 26 and then go run the marathon. In fact, like most of the time you haven't even ran the 26.2 until that day you're supposed to run the 26.2.
You have like a short run, a timed run, a longer run. Yeah.
And so there's a way to structure that. And now again, if you want to do that, I'm probably not the best coach to work with because I will be like, I have a gal that I would refer you to that focuses specifically on that. But if you want to be able to be like more active in your hikes and maybe keep up a little bit more, that's something we can incorporate. So what I would do is just make sure that you're not overdoing it, because that's what people will start doing cardio every day because it's easier to implement, right? You don't need a bunch of equipment. You can go for the walk and you can just need your shoes for the run.
Right.
So that's something to be aware of.
Well, and I think too, a lot of people will say, well, I just like the feeling that I feel. So that's great. It kind of goes back to my alcohol thing.
Yeah.
It's like, You can get that feeling from other things. You just haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, they let the runners. It's so funny because someone, I forgot who was it? They were talking about they love cardio because they get that like runner's high. And then, but as I'm talking to them, like that runner's high is like actually your cortisol spiking, but okay.
Right. Yes. Especially if you're like, oh, I just love the feeling after I do that 60-minute Orange Theory class. It's like, no, babe, your body's emotionally addicted to cortisol. And that's another conversation we need to have because you see people do these workouts. And I mean, I've seen it where they do the workouts all the time and their bodies don't change.
Oh, I know.
You know, there are a few people at F45, but they didn't come every day.
There you go.
And they would focus on the strength classes and maybe they just come to a Saturday, which was a hybrid class. And those people had better results than the people who came
they're using that as their like hit their day.
Exactly. Yeah. I liked their Saturday classes because of like a DJ and stuff. Oh, fun. And that's just fun. Like, that's just fun to me. You know what I was thinking yesterday, because I'm doing this kind of, new me. I was like, I should try new types of training and like do a vlog on them.
You should.
I was thinking about doing Pilates.
Oh, I like Pilates. I like a reformer.
I've never done reformer.
You've never done reformer?
I'm afraid
Pilates?
of my hips.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was going to do like maybe 2 months doing reformer and then 2 months I would try High Rocks.
Oh, I've Googled what that is yesterday, actually.
It's basically CrossFit.
That's what I was like, this is CrossFit, but it's like more endurance-y. And I'm like, okay, so it's CrossFit. And they probably just don't have to pay for like the CrossFit labeling.
Right.
So
it's very like in right now.
I know.
And then I also wanted to try like a weight, like powerlifting class. And maybe like this year, like just try these different things. Cause I'm so like secure in my body.
Yeah.
That
you don't care if it doesn't change.
Yeah. I don't care if it doesn't change or like, I don't care if one makes me like bigger than the other. Like, I just want to see what that would be like. Cause I don't give a shit. Yeah. Like, I really don't care. The other day I was like, girl, you're 42 and you
are okay.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
So that's where I want everyone to be. All right.
Let's talk about how to structure cardio with the routine.
Booyah. Kind of already touched on this. When to do cardio. If your goal is endurance, we're going to do it before lifting. If your goal is preserving strength and muscle, we're going to do it after lifting. And like I said, just walk. Or if you're like me and you want to add a little bit of that high intensity and do it on your recovery days. Probably like recovery in intervals, it's 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes and it's not taking too much out of that bank for that day. Whereas if I do that plus my lift, plus a walk, I'm going to be dead.
Too much.
I don't know how I did that, where I did literally 2 Saturday hour-long classes at F45. And then we would go hike afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? All right. How often should you do cardio?
So 2 to 3 times per week for general health. But again, it depends. Like if you're doing intensive stuff 2 to 3 times per week, if you're going for a walk, you can do that daily. But this is where I'd also like thinking of your client, Michael, of like, it doesn't need to be 40,000 steps a day, right?
No.
It can be like, for example, what's your weekly average? My weekly average is 5,000. Do I get more in this time of year because it's nice out? Yes. In the summer, do I get less? Absolutely. So just making sure that we are this is where having a structured training program is really beneficial because you're planning out your time, you're planning out your days. Whereas if you're just like, oh, I think I'll just do cardio today. And then tomorrow I was like, oh, I think I'll just go like to the gym, do some squats. Like you might see results in the beginning, but as you keep going, your results are going to plateau and stall and you're going to wonder what to do. Yeah. So knowing like 1, what is my goal? 2, what is my structure? Now, like Christina's saying, if you're doing it more in a combination with strength, we need to make sure that you're doing it on your off days. If you're doing it more in a combination of like, what's it called? Endurance running. Then I'm going to do 3 days of cardio potentially and 1 like 5x5 day with like just 3 exercises. Yep. And those 3 exercises are going to be more kind of, thoughtful, I can't think of the word, of what the training program looks like. So for example, I'm going to do more front squats to work on like quad dominance and glute stuff to focus on glute dominance. And then I might do some rotational things because if you're running, your body's going back and forth. So I'm going to do maybe some like cable twists or something like that.
Right. No. And when I was training a client, now she had a running coach because again, that's not my forte. And I did her training, and she was training for a marathon, and we very much used her training to focus on what it was she needed to do, and then also fueled her to support that.
So i.e. more carbs.
Yes.
Which y'all don't like.
I know, but your body needs, and she really felt a difference. This was her first, she's been a college athlete and then did marathons afterwards. And this was the first time that she actually felt really good. And I believe she even improved.
Oh, really?
On her running when we pulled back, fed her more, and focused on the like training for running itself.
Yeah.
And that takes us to the next thing of like avoiding these common mistakes of like increasing your cardio too soon. And we talked about like the people who walked into F45 on a cardio day and they haven't worked out in a year.
Yeah.
It shouldn't feel like that feeling in the back of your, no, but that feeling where it feels like you're bleeding. You taste that like
metallic
taste. That's not how it should be. This is funny. So I take the stairs up to the 6th floor to my dad's room, and it's hard.
Yes.
But I also have to wear a mask in front of my dad. And one day I had done both, and I was like, why do I feel a little like weird at the back of my throat? I mean, I wasn't like huffing and puffing, but I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I just wasn't getting like a good amount of oxygen in. So don't do it too fast because you're going to burn out or you're going to hurt yourself. Really building up. So if we're walking 10 minutes, then 20 minutes. Then maybe we're jogging for 10 minutes and walking for 10 minutes. Maybe then we are, running at a steady pace for 10 minutes and jogging for 5 and walking for 5. Like just titrate up.
Well, the other thing too is, as we talked about, is not eating enough too. Yes. Like, and that's where I'll see, and I don't know why this happens with the cardio people so much, is that like they'll look at the calories burned. That's what they need to subtract from their meals, or that's what they add back in. They always use the calories burned to like manipulate what the calories eaten are. And honestly, like if you're just kind of sluggish and drained and kind of, I would say like sunken face is another one. You probably need to eat more. Like, and it gets scary though, because then they think of eating as calories burned that they earned. It doesn't work that way. And you'll also need to consider like how much energy you're expending.
Yes. We definitely want to feel ourselves for however much movement we're doing. And again, your body you're just putting back into that recovery. So ignoring recovery is another thing I see people do is like, well, no, I need to get this running because I need to do this training, but I didn't sleep last night. You're not going to, the whole reason you're training is to progress forward. If you haven't had the recovery, the sleep, even hydration, right? Maybe you drink the day before. Oh my God. I had a friend get absolutely annihilated and then go run a marathon the next day. He didn't even know his name. And he ran. And I'm like, oh my God, the metabolic damage you're doing to yourself. We have to think, okay, where's my recovery bucket right now?
Right.
We're in the 0. We're in the red. Running is not going to help that. So I'm actually going to take today to kind of get back on track, hydrate, try to get some more rest. Recover.
Yeah.
Add to the bucket and then go do the run. It's literally pointless.
But it's so funny that you bring up the recovery, because that's our next one of common mistakes of like, okay, I'm technically off today. I'll do like my cardio day and that's my recovery. And I did this myself too. So I'll put it in context. Like I would do a CrossFit workout every morning, no matter what. And then if I didn't do one in the afternoon, then I would go hike Piastawa after work. I know. And so and I was just like gassed. And it was so funny because I was thinking today on my walk, because I was like, man, when my body looked like the biggest and kind of like most muscly, but like inflamed, it was because I was doing so much and eating so little.
Yeah.
And I said, but when it looked the best, in my opinion, and like the most cut and sleek, it was because I was just working out 3 to 4 days a week, strength training, walking, and eating enough.
Yep.
And I was like, wow, if only I knew that then. But so if you're using your rest days to go and hit the cardio bucket, like that's going to take away from your recovery. So it's actually going to take away from your goals of building muscle. Now, if you want better endurance and better cardio, then you need to back off the muscle training stuff and be aware of that.
Like we're saying, like clarity is key. Like know what the goal is and make sure that you're aligning with that goal. So we're not taking away your cardio, but we're being very specific in it and doing it in a way that supports your goals. Cardio is not the enemy. It's about balance and figuring out where it fits into whatever it is that you want to do. Again, if all else fails, just get your ass out and walk.
I know. Just walk.
I was interviewed recently for a podcast.
You've had a couple interviews recently.
Have. Good ones.
Is that Robin helping getting good?
Yeah. And he and I talked about like how helpful from a mental health standpoint walking is, because it does replicate EMDR, which helps you connect to both hemispheres of your brain. And that's why we find peace in walking. That's why we have these wonderful ideas. So if all else fails, get your ass out and walk. And again, your walk doesn't have to be like mine is usually anywhere from 20 minutes to 30 to 45 minutes. It used to be, no, I need to hit 3 miles. Now I'm like, I don't fucking care. Depending on how Liberty is, right? Depending on my sleep.
For me, it's depending on Olivia.
Yeah.
Like where she's at in the day. Like, so for example,
depending on if I get fucking mauled by a dog again.
Yeah. So for example, today I wanted to go for a walk with her earlier, but she was just kind of like, she hadn't ate yet. And it's like, oh, we're going to run into eating time. So she ate, we kind of played around, and I was like, man, I've got like 20 minutes before I really need to like start getting ready and kind of get going. And I was like, we'll just take her for like a half a loop. And that's what I think was so great about walking, is that you can determine like your neighborhood kind of distances. So like you've got your loops and your times and all that. Like I have around like just our one block. Okay, that takes me about 10 minutes. Okay, then I've got half a loop, takes me about 20. Then half of like the bigger half loop is about 30. My big loop is about 40.
Yep.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, so based on my timing that I have available, or maybe the energy or the timing that she allows, then I can modify.
Absolutely. Good. So for you guys, evaluate that routine. How can you incorporate cardio strategically this week? Let us know in the comments. If you want information on how to coach with us, maybe you are training for a marathon, or you're just wanting to look better or feel better, stronger, check out the show notes below for our Clarity Call link. Don't forget, our Resilient Woman 21-day reset starts March 31st. It's coming up here, you guys. We have a good amount of people signed up for it. I'm very excited about that. What that involves is exactly this, like giving you training that is based on your energy levels, what your body needs that day, and the time frame that you have. We're also going to teach you sustainable eating in a way that even if you are just with us for those 21 days, you'll be able to take and use throughout your life. And more importantly, we're going to kind of analyze how we got here. How did our relationship with food, exercise, and so on get to the place it is, and teach you skills on how to better have a better relationship with all three. So check out the link in the show notes below. If you haven't already, make sure to follow and subscribe to our channels, Mindset Mirror Connection Podcast. You also find us on Instagram at that handle. And other than that, we want to run away with this one last thing.
What you say in the mind,
you see in the mirror. Bye.